Hello, I want to spend a significant amount of time in this lesson talking about the DWI provider's homepage, which is located online at the Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services website for the state of North Carolina. And I have included the link for this website within Blackboard itself. When you first log in, we can look at the website. You see a link that says DWI Providers Home. The page is also in Spanish. You can locate services and look at statutes and rules. So what I want to do today is just run through some of the material as fast as I can, although there's lots of stuff here. First, let's look at the DWI Providers Home. And this brings up, basically, this part of the page stays the same, but the bottom links change. And I want to run through these links again. First is the authorization process to provide DWI services. I do want folks to read this. There's a formal process that you have to go through to provide DWI assessment and treatment services for the state. You just can't go in and say, I'm going to provide services. And just because you might be certified as a certified substance abuse counselor or licensed as a licensed clinical addictions professional, that doesn't mean that you're eligible to provide services either. You actually have to go through a screening process yourself. Your office has to be approved. Usually there is a site visit by the state, and of course formal applications and so forth. There's also additional training you have to go through, and it's a pretty lengthy process. So please make sure to take time to read the authorization process. Next is we talk about ADETS and what ADETS is. ADETS is Alcohol Drug Education Training School. It's the old traffic school that's provided within North Carolina. So what happens is when a offender has been referred to a substance abuse assessment or DWI assessment, the assessor has a couple of options in terms of treatment levels. The first option is ADETS. This is for folks who do not have a drug or alcohol dependence diagnosis, perhaps only a abuse diagnosis, and a lower risk individual who perhaps this is the very first time they've been charged while driving under the influence. Or, more frequently, younger adults under 21 who have been charged with consuming alcohol under 21 but was not driving could also go through this process. So when you conduct a DWI assessment, you have two options, or several options actually. ADETS is one treatment option. A traditional treatment process, which could be a minimum of 20 hours up to several years, or inpatient treatment is an option too. For ADETS, what we use is a program called Prime for Life within North Carolina. And there will be a link via their website that I want folks to check on the Prime for Life program and see what it's all about. And please make sure to take a look at all these qualifications and memos related to ADETS. Next is an announcements page for any prior announcements. It looks like most of these announcements are pretty darn old, so these should go fast. But there are some conditions here that's really important related to driving while license revoked convictions that require a new substance abuse assessment. This is a relatively recent change in the law, which means if you've been convicted of a DWI and your license has been revoked, which everyone's is, generally speaking, and you're caught driving again without a license. This doesn't mean that you're driving drunk. It just means that you're driving without a license and you're charged for driving without a license. The court can actually require you to complete another substance abuse assessment. Even though you haven't been charged with another alcohol-related crime, the mere fact that you have completed or been charged with a DWLR, which is driving while license revoked, the court can request that you or mandate you complete another DWI assessment and comply with any recommended treatment, even if you have completed treatment in the past. There's a various link here for forms. It talks about the authorization fee. The state actually sets the fee that clinical folks can charge in terms of a DWI assessment. So the state sets that fee, and you actually, based on the number of assessments per year your office completes, you have to send a certain percentage of that fee back to the state. There's documents here about staff resources, redisclosing information you will need to read, how to transfer services, and how to provide services to non-English speaking folks. There's a 508 system. This is the electronic system that you submit the results of a DWI assessment and treatment progress to the state. This is the system that's tied into the state DWI office and to the DMV. Therefore, this 508 form is extremely important. This form is what gives permission to the DMV to reinstate driver's license, if the applicable or acceptable amount of time has passed with your license suspension. This is really the most popular part with clients. They always come into the office and ask, how long does it take my 508 form to be processed by the state? Years ago, it could take months, literally 6 to 12 months, 3 months. Now, since we have this electronic reporting system, usually it takes a couple of days or weeks for the form to be certified and for your driver's license to be released to the DMV. Online driving records. As part of the assessment process, substance abuse providers are required to collect driving records from the client. Sometimes the client can bring the record in. Most providers actually just collect the $11 fee from the client, and you can then pull the information down from the DOT system. Driving records are really important because based on your past driving record, that can impact the assessment recommendations by the substance abuse counselor. We talk about out-of-state issues related to protecting privacy and any interstate compacts. Relevant policies that, again, there's just a few policies listed that's been within the announcements area. Program reviews. DWI programs are audited every year, and unannounced or announced visits can be made by the state to audit the client files, to talk with clients, to talk with staff, and so forth. It's a very serious process. So this talks about some of the auditing requirements. Reports. Programs are required to complete specific reports, DWI Services reports, and submit those to the state. And this website talks about that. And provides additional web links for related information related to drunk driving and alcoholism, alcohol abuse, dependence, and so forth. On the DWI provider's homepage, section, you can see these clinical tools. And these are samples of clinical tools that providers can use. So there are screening instruments, assessments, meaning there are only certain approved screening instruments that can be used to satisfy DWI requirements. Some of these I have used in the past. It's my favorite, the Addiction Severity Index. I will provide a link to this in the website or within Blackboard. The SALSI I've also used in the past. That's very good. The SALSI, you actually, I believe, collect the information, then insert the information into a computer system that provides results. The JOSI, I've also used in the past, as well as the SUDS. The audit is more of a screening instrument. The SASI, I will provide a link to, which is the Substance Abuse Subtle Screening Inventory. There are adolescent and adult versions. This is really the most popular screening instrument available. It's a collection of true-false questions and self-report questions. So there are actually two items you need to be concerned with. Notice we have the terms assessment and screening. Screening is more of a lower level, usually pen and paper effort to screen folks who may be experiencing issues related to abuse or dependence. It's a really fast, usually quantitative, which I mean pen and paper, or statistically proven process. An assessment is more of a clinical interview usually, where you actually sit down with a client and have a clinical conversation about their life experiences and circumstance. And what happens is you take the assessment and the screening instruments process, combine it into one big picture of the client, and that's how you create your treatment recommendations. There's a sample client contract. We ask clients to contract with us for a certain number of treatment sessions within a certain period of time and a certain number of hours. This is a good example of that form. Here's a sample clinical interview. It's pretty good. Service note. A service note is again a description of when you see the client. It's a record of service, and generally what needs to be inside of a service note is, of course, date of service, client's name, the purpose of the contact, what type of intervention was provided that day, how effective the intervention is, and of course your interventions should be directed or work towards the particular goal for the individual, how long the service has occurred, and the signature of the person. Signature usually includes qualifications, such as level of degree and your license or certification level. Here's a sample client rights and grievances document in terms of how clients can file grievances against a provider or service instance. Oops, sorry. Let's see if I can get that screen back. Hold on one second. Hold on one second, I'm sorry. Okay. A discharge summary. Again, a final summary that is in the client's file that provides a really good overview of the types of services provided, diagnosis, discharge plan, referrals, and so forth. Supervision logs. If clients or if counselors are being supervised individually or in group supervision, this is a documentation of how those counselors are being supervised by clinical supervisors. Another supervision log, release of information forms. This is a sample release of information form for the criminal justice system. Of course, release forms have to be completed for each agency that we release information to, and the release forms must be extremely specific and detailed in terms of stating why the request is being made. And a sample treatment plan is included. In terms of providing a diagnosis and the types of interventions that will be implemented, any client supports and strengths that are present, items that clients really prefer to work on, items that clients need to work on, sample service plans or what your service plan is and justifications, and if you plan on making any changes to those service plans, you have to document that. Also talks about ASAM dimensions, which we really don't have time to get into in this particular class. We do in SAB 210, the substance abuse counseling class. The ASAM is the American Society of Addiction Medicine, and there are different criteria sets that go along with the DSM-4 diagnosis to help determine treatment levels. You can also locate services within the website by clicking on the first name of the county, or you can actually click on the county. So for example, for Forsyth, we can click on and see all the eligible substance abuse providers that can provide DWI treatment. Just because you might be a substance abuse provider or certified or licensed does not mean that you can provide treatment. And for example, I'll just pick one at random, Life Skills Counseling Center over in Winston-Salem. If you note, it gives you the address, phone number, contact information, email, that this person is an ADETS provider, meaning the Alcohol, Drug Education, Traffic Safety School. Some providers are not ADETS because the income the ADETS provides is much, much less than providing assessments and treatment. This particular agency can do out-of-state reviews, which means they have been approved by other states to do out-of-state reviews in terms of assessments. They also include services in Spanish and in English. They are approved to do DWI assessments, traffic school, short-term treatment, which is usually about 20 hours of total treatment or 40 hours, and long-term treatment, which could go into intensive outpatient, which meets 3 nights a week, or into services up to or beyond 1 year. Under statutes and rules, this is really where much of the information for the prior lesson could be found, but it talks about rules related to DWIs, related to general statutes, confidentiality of patient records, related to Senate bills, legislative changes, motor vehicle changes, and voting under the influence. Which is usually a pretty big issue around July 4th and summertime. You can be charged with voting under the influence, which has many of the same legal requirements based on general statute as if you might be driving a car. So please take time to review this material as well. And you can actually request a rural manual as well. And this is actually all of the rules that's related to substance abuse treatment. All on the state level, and mental health treatment. So this particular page goes beyond substance abuse or DWI treatment, but could be interesting to many of you. Again, what I want us to concentrate on this week is reviewing all the material on the DWI provider's homepage. Plus, before I close the video up, there is another link, which is DWI client's home. That's the main page, I believe. That's not what I want. Hold on one second. This. Make sure from the home page you review the trainings and conferences link, the DMV DWI handbook. This is actually a very good handbook if the page will come up. That talks about the driver's license process, and it really breaks down the general statutes that everybody read in more of a user-friendly method. There's a journey of a DWI. This is actually a flowchart, and honestly, this was really the genesis of my idea for the journey of a DWI documentary we did within Surrey County. The long 38-minute documentary everybody viewed, and it kind of shows you the process. If you've been charged with a DWI, or you've been drinking and driving, stopped by police, the police give you a field sobriety test. Remember when the person was asked to blow in the machine on the side of the street by the car. The person, if they blow, or if there's suspicion of intoxication, the person is arrested. The vehicle is secured, which means family is usually called to pick up the car, or a driver that was not intoxicated is given possession of the car, or the car is towed and put in an impound. Then the breath test inside of the police department is usually given. Usually either police departments or the Highway Patrol or DMV provides official breath testing inside the office. If the person scores less than 0.08, unless there are other charges available, usually the process stops there. If there's a indication of 0.08 or greater inside the office, the person is charged with the DWI. Now, between the point here is either the person goes before a magistrate or before a judge, and the person goes to court. So the person goes to court, they're either found not guilty or the case is dismissed, or they're found guilty. And if the person is found guilty, the person completes a substance abuse assessment, or they fail to comply with any of the court recommendations. But usually, actually, the assessment occurs between the court and the conviction. So usually if you obtain a lawyer, the lawyer will say, go get your assessment before you go to court, because judges usually like to have that assessment before the client goes to court. During the assessment process, the assessor can find several things: that there's no handicap, meaning that there's no diagnosis, and the person can complete traffic school education. Or if there is a handicap or a substance abuse diagnosis, the assessor determines the treatment levels. And the offender has to complete the treatment process. If they don't complete the treatment process or pay in full all fees associated with the treatment process, and the court mandates, you are not eligible for driver's license reinstatement. So in order to be eligible for driver's license reinstatement, if this is your first charge, for example, you have to have the minimum suspension period of usually 1 year, pay all fines and fees, community service, and that type of thing, pay the substance abuse provider all of their fines and fees, and complete all necessary recommendations made by those providers. When all that is done, and it's 100% finished, the treatment provider generates the 508 form I mentioned a few minutes ago. That form is sent electronically to the DWI Services branch for approval. The DWI Services branch then sends it to the DMV, and the flag in the DMV system is lifted on that driver's file, which means if everything else is in compliance and completed, the driver can then apply for their driver's license again. Let's go back to the home page. I think this screencast has probably went on long enough, probably too long. So what your assignment to do now is to visit the website and go through all the links I've discussed and all these pages. It will take you some time, and this will be the major reading assignment for you to complete this lesson, and then we will report on your findings via the discussion boards and a few other of the assignments. Again, please, this information is so important, especially for those of us who want to work within the substance abuse setting, and particularly in the clinical setting, and in any human services client in general. So please make sure to take time to read the material and make note of any questions you have as you go along, because we want to talk about those questions via the discussion boards. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.